fields up there.
Yeah.
on your side.
I understand.
Or did.
You have 260 bushel corn up there too, like your dad.
No.
We didn't need it.
We had.
Okay, sure. 8 o'clock, call the meeting to order.
How about you?
Do the roll call, please.
Hanson.
Yeah.
Bill.
Right.
Walt.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Schultz.
Yeah.
Anderson.
Is there any public comment? Go ahead.
Okay. I know there's a battle obviously going on between the ETSB and the county board, and I think personally, that's really sad. The 911 board, I feel, has done a good job. I know we've been slammed quite often with the amount of money that we no longer have, but that's largely due to landline loss of the $2. You guys have shown, I guess, that you're I don't know my wording to use. Do you feel there needs to be a shakeup? I guess on the 911 board, you've already done that. We'll be losing 8 members out of the 12 by the end of December. I personally think that's a big hit, and I truly wish that some county board members, or all the county board members actually, would have came in and had a discussion with me or my staff or the other board members as far as exactly how we function and exactly what we do. I feel that ETSB is the most qualified board to take over the dispatch center. They are the ones that work with emergency services. After everything that we've been going through, the dispatchers and I, through the last probably 3 months, wherever the case may be, I truly would rather dispatch a 50-car pileup on Interstate 57 than deal with what we've been dealing with. The stress level is high. I've already had one dispatcher quit because of the stress and the uncertainty if she's going to be employed next week. Kyle, I want to apologize to you for my attitude on the phone yesterday. It was wrong, but I hope that shows the stress level that we are all at. And I think that's very, very unnecessary, and I apologize to you for that. And I was doing it publicly in front of the camera and everybody else, okay? But I really think it's important that we all work together and that we try to come out with the best solution ever. The 911 board knows how to work with first responders. The first responders are very supportive of the 911 board. So I ask that you please allow us to take this dispatch center over. We've already made the motion. We're already in the progress of doing it. Don't stop us by filing court motions that I've heard that's going to happen. Don't stop us by doing this. You guys have obviously showed that you have control of our board, and in a year, you're going to replace the 4 that are on there now. We know that handwriting's on the wall. So therefore, in a year, you will have control of the 6 board members on the ETSB board. At that time, you will be in control of the dispatch center completely because you will have your board members on there. So please give us a chance to take over dispatch and do what we are truly here as first responders throughout the county. Thank you.
Thanks, Dinah.
I just want to say that it was nice to see the American flag flying out here this morning and also over by the courthouse.
Hi. At the November meeting, the forensic auditor said he had 5 computers he examined. He gave a report on 4. Who was the 5th and why didn't he report on it?
The other public comment. I don't have the answer. If I had the answer, I'd give it to you. I don't have that answer. Any other public comments? Seeing none. Go to the forensic audit briefing. I think Mr. Devine's coming in, so that'll help this. We'll kind of tie in with this later on down here in the agenda, but pass out this. It was recommended to do a forensic audit on all of the, not just the 5, but the rest of the computers out there. Here, and make copies. Pass that around real quick. Yeah, let's let her make copies. That way everybody has one. John's going to make copies of it. That way everybody can look at it. What was the number on it? $5,650 to complete the audit. Same way it was done with the other computers on all the computers. Harassed Mr. Devine when he just walked in, he hasn't even got settled, but I did talk with you about, or talk to him about the forensic audit, completing it. It is up to the board if we're going to spend the money.
Correct.
Do you want to comment on it at all?
Yeah, well, I have no money in my budget to pursue something like this. If I'm going to spend $5,600, that's more than half my prosecution budget. I have a murder trial February 2nd, and I have a sexually dangerous person trial next year, both of which are going to cost me money. So I have none. Yes?
The intergovernmental agreement that we made with Ford County last summer says that they're supposed to pay part of that cost.
Okay, I mean...
It says right in there, all forensic audits.
Okay.
Don't we have to have a more thorough one for prosecution of the 4 computers that we talked about?
Yeah, there's an old saying, when you prosecute somebody, you go where the evidence is. If I have no evidence, there's nowhere to go.
So we have to come up with money for that.
If you want the evidence, you're going to have to pay for it.
So is
To
that,
the tune of $5,650.
that'll cover it all?
Okay, yeah.
But it says in the intergovernmental agreement that Ford County pays a third of it.
Okay.
So
Well, I just need to know a dollar.
I can imagine they have to sign off on this or whatever. I think
that don't work on
They have to sign off on it?
No?
No.
It's discretionary by their board as to what they do, how they spend their money. I mean, it's in the agreement that they should pay for it, but, I mean, they've already, arguably, and I'm not going to speak for them, that they've already paid for an audit, haven't they? I mean,
Right, but it says plural under audits in the agreement. I've
then I
got a
think
copy of the agreement right here.
well, it would be discretionary as to whether they're going to spend that money or not. They're not mandated to spend this money. If they want a second audit to be paid for, then, of course, they had nothing to do with the initiation of this particular audit, so I'm sure they're going to have a lot to say about whether they spend any money on this audit or not.
I know when you and I talked about it on Monday, you said you were hopeful that they would pick up some of the cost of it.
Yeah, I think, well, they're a part of this, so yeah, if there's money to be spent, I think they should be a part of it, but that's their call.
Being at the end of the budget year, if there is a motion that would come out of this, I need to go towards...
Wouldn't we move it, just to make a motion to send it to finance?
Yeah, send it, that's what I'm getting at. Send it to the finance committee with the money. That's what I told them, yeah. That's it.
Shouldn't we get in touch with Ford County to see about them paying part of it though?
That leaves us another, get it to finance and send it the next Thursday, and get in contact with them if they're interested in funding the third.
If you give them an out, they're gonna take it. $5,600 if we can get a prosecution.
It's in the agreement.
I would try to get it from them, but I wouldn't say don't do it if they don't.
It says right on the paper that they're obligated to do it. I don't know if they will or not.
Any other discussion from the committee?
Need a motion.
No other discussion, I say we need a motion to send it to finance and then address it.
I'll make a motion to send that to finance.
Motion by Kevin, second by John. Any other discussion from board members? Not? Go ahead, do a roll call, please.
Hanson.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Benoit.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Schultz.
No.
Anderson.
Yes.
Yes.
Troy.
Oh, Troy, I'm sorry. I have you marked off.
That pretty well takes care of the discussion motion from the county board to recommend prosecution of the evidence presented. That all kind of goes hand in hand down farther on the agenda. But next up is committee chair reports. Adam, zoning.
Oh, well, we're still going over the subdivision ordinance. I heard if we had any zoning board of appeals at the end. Also in here, but, trying to think. That was really about it at the moment. Mainly going back over the subdivision ordinance and,
I'm working on that.
yeah, and really haven't heard much from the K4 issues, but they are still building. I had a lot of citizens calling and stuff like that, and even though the work permits, I don't think they weren't not issued, the rest of them weren't, but there's still a lot of work being done in Iroquois County and stuff like that, and a lot of it because the work permits don't have anything to do with some of the stuff they're doing, I guess, trenching and stuff like that. Other than that, that's about it.
Kevin, finance?
I don't think there's anything just rolling out of this year and starting the new year.
I just gave you something.
Have to try to come up with $5,600 for,
Oh,
2/3 of it or 3/4 of it anyway.
Russell Highway?
Right now, tentative, it's gonna look like, I know we've got some resolutions for using county matching tax to supplement the motor fuel tax projects that's going. One's the intersection there at, the 52 Clifton Road, where those fancy lights and the warning thing. That turned out to be a much major project. That was a federal state improvement association or some type of project. A lot more money there. Be an update on wind farms. I guess we did issue some more permits after the road commissioner signed off on some 6-month permits up there in Ducks Grove Township dealing with the wind farm issue. It's not perfect yet, but it's getting a lot better. So that should be about it. No at present.
Do they follow your road agreement?
Much better. Yeah. A lot of the safety related issues, I guess, will really address. The main thing. The equipment didn't go away at night. Things like that.
Is there, this might be for you or it might be for Joel, is there going to be enough manpower in the maintenance department to plow snow? And under the understanding that you got some more of the township roads that they're not, or your roads, the townships aren't going to plow?
Yeah, I think we're going to have it covered. This is going to be probably more over because the routes are quite a bit longer.
Did they go 25% more? Half?
No, we picked up 25 or 26 miles out of 180 that were done by township. We picked up another 25 miles. So the routes went from approximately 30 miles each to about 40, 39, 40. So we'll be able to handle it. It's going to be a little longer for some people to see a plow go by the roads.
They may see a plow go by, but they're not, the township and they're not dropping the plow. Is that kind of what maybe happened?
Yeah. Now, there a couple of these guys go down the roads anyway, so why they don't want to plow them, I don't know, but they didn't look at it this year, so can't force them.
Yep. Okay. Troy?
IT, I see on the agenda here, I'm sure the policy is going to emerge, there'll be a motion for that. Other than that, I think everything's up to date and moving along. IT, and the project's completed. We do health too. The next one's health. There again, everything's, the last month is completed. Although, it'd be my suggestion to Dee that we do a resolve, a follow-up, and a summary of that. You know, go over the protocol, make sure everything's kosher on that. Okay. That's all.
Dale, Pat?
We're going to deal with the levy. That's about all besides reports, et cetera. Normal monthly business. To bring the levy to the county board this month.
Additional public safety, John?
Nothing unusual, we'll just be taking our normal reports as far as I know, unless something comes up between now and then, but everything else seems to be quiet.
As far as management goes, Lyle wasn't able to attend here. Still talking about if we can make the situation work as far as maintenance supervisor, if we're going to get the outside another person in here. FSA updates are they're basically done. I'm trying to think what else is on there. Donna, you're on management, John. Is there anything I'm missing? There's a couple other things.
No, just some little things like that door back there that we talked about.
Heat pump had issues down in a new heat pump that's a year or two old. That issue that'll be resolved Friday under warranty. I think that's about it for that.
We got the snow plow.
Yep, we got that done. Yeah. There's all his stuff in the halls. Snow removal has that all taken care of. They're ready to go. Okay. Next one's chairman comments. I didn't really plan a chairman comment, but it's on there, so we'll throw something out here. Kind of addressing Nida's public comment, and I do accept her apology. I understand she's extremely passionate on what she's doing, and I understand. They did the EDSB board voted to take over dispatch. There is a meeting of ICOM this afternoon at 1:30. Read the agenda out in the hallway. I guess my comment would be, I don't know how to get this all resolved with about, I don't know, very, very, very little time. In October, the county board voted to have dispatchers report to judicial, hire a dispatch coordinator, which is still very much on the table. Just it's out there. I'm still under the belief, and I told several people yesterday, I don't know that the county board, that personally, that the 20 members can 100% effectively do the dispatch. Can it be done? Yes. I think they effectively get it done. We don't know. That's a question that I can't answer. So I think the ETSB board needs it. Not totally. I had a conversation with the sheriff yesterday. He knows what I would like to see get done, and that would be a dispatch go under the sheriff. It'd be a 6-member board that would still run it. He could run it how he sees fit. His board member, the telecommunicators want to be the union issues. They want to be a FOP union. Sheriff deals with all the FOP unions as it is. It just seemed to make sense, but that's probably not going to pan out, apparently. That's my comment for what it's worth, and most people don't think it's worth very much. So it was on the agenda, so I thought I'd throw it out there. Appointments. I don't have any appointments today. Discussion and motion to adopt IT forensic policy. That needs to be done in cooperation with the IT committee. We'll start looking, not necessarily cherry pick, but see if we can find somewhere to start, starting point of some better idea. Somebody's got an IT policy in their stack papers here, we'll look at it, but
Kyle?
Jim Devine.
When I spoke with Andrew Garrett after the last county board meeting, I asked him about a template for that type of policy. He suggested going to the Department of Defense website and exploring their IT policy. He thought it was a very good place to start as far as IT policies go. So I throw that out there for...
That's the suggestion I've heard. That's the only suggestion I've heard, but it's definitely the best. It sounds like...
Yeah, he thought it was a good one. He thought it was a great place to start.
Okay.
And he said that other counties implement a variation of the Department of Defense IT policy recommendations.
Okay.
I will say locally, out of all the businesses around the county, probably the best one I've seen is our local healthcare provider. electric one more. They have a very good one, and it could be wired out real easy and free work. But that's been a lot of money.
I don't know. Put that on your agenda, Troy, to...
I probably have a good one in your location. Hey, your business.
They lock down there.
Well,
It works.
it works.
Too good.
One thing I would suggest, I think we have a little bit different situation than most of the organizations that have been mentioned, in the fact that the elected officials run their office. The elected officials have responsibility for their office. And if we try to do something that's going to shove it down their throat, it ain't going to work. So I would suggest that anything that comes out of this would be done in cooperation with and work with the elected officials to try to approach it.
Very good suggestion. I don't see it happening in the next month. I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time to get it done. Try to get a protocol or a template in IT. We can bring it back to policy. Pretty much everybody's here. Make sure we touch on it in every committee. Make sure everybody's on at least kind of in the same direction. For what it's worth, I think when we do it, we don't. Whenever we pass it, we started on that date. There has to be a date set that from here forward. We're not going to start doing more forensic audits to pull stuff from computers in this building from 5 years ago. We're going to, at some point, we got to say, here we are, we're going forward. We're not going to be looking back. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong one way or the other, or right, but that would be my suggestion. Any other discussion on IT policy? That's the next item, very well covered earlier. Revolving loan, fund, blunt loan, overall direction. Had a brief discussion with Jim yesterday about that. Do you want to highlight of it, Jim?
Well, what I'd like to do, if we could maybe put this towards the end and go into executive session, since we're talking about pending or threatened litigation, I'd like to do that in closed session to let the board members know what my thoughts are, what my conversations have been with the principals involved, and then we can go from there.
Finish the rest of the agenda.
If you would, please.
Yep. County Code Book, you're up again, Jim.
I'm pleased to say that Lisa and I have been corresponding and talking with Municipal Code. They are in the process of compiling the final draft. So I hope within the next, week or two, we should have the final versions of our ordinance. And then that will be disseminated, of course, to all the board members. We need to look through those to make sure everybody's okay with what's been done for the past 2 years and get this approved. There'll be an ordinance at the end, I think, after this is all done, to approve the ordinance, the code book, because there have been a lot of changes, a tremendous amount of changes. And most of the changes have been just simply updating it from prior statutes that have been a part of our code book that haven't been updated in our code book. So you just need to read through it. It's very dry. It's not exciting, but it needs to be done. And make sure that everybody is okay with the wording. Some of the wording got cleaned up. I mean, there's been some suspect wording through the years, and that's been cleaned up. So we're nearly there. So, pleased to say, final draft is coming.
That'll almost make our agenda for this committee go back to one page. We can wipe that off.
Yeah.
It's been on there for a while. Next on the agenda, discussion on contracts for dispatch services for 2015 and 16. This kind of goes with the next one, which is dispatch coordinator position. Contracts are sent out. Told don't expect any back. And then none come back. have that one that was. We did receive one yesterday or the day before. We'll plan to grab that. ETSB, when they had their meeting, they voted to take over dispatch, and they just mostly handed out contracts. They had to send some.
Like, between that night and the next night, I handed them all out. I didn't send anybody mail.
You don't have to answer, but have you got all yours back?
I have 6, I believe I have back so far. A lot of them just have not met yet due to the close to the first of the year to get them back. And we haven't got, but I've got, I believe, 6 back with checks. And I've had several phone calls that they're, within the next week, we should put quite a few more back.
That being said, I'm still waiting for this. He's receiving them back, we are not. So.
What's the difference between
Awarded some nuts and figures, unintentional figures. It wasn't, we were not trying to undercut their numbers. Typo. I'll take the blame for that one. But that was not an intent to undercut their numbers, to try to get them. That wasn't the intention. Knowing and being told before we sent them that they weren't coming back. That seems to be completely accurate, obviously. So, I discussed that. Any comments by the committee as to what our next steps should be? Wait for Amanda? Okay. Wait for her. Did you write, when was it received? Was it yesterday?
Monday or Tuesday.
Late Monday or Tuesday, I think. You can read all the way through it. The end result is monthly installment $13,615.16, which totals $163,350 a year, which would be what was our budget?
That is the exact same contract you signed 3 years ago, other than a name change and a dollar amount change.
And what was the second part?
Dollar amount change and name
with the
change.
extra. Yeah. While it's going around, and anybody have a comment or suggestion on what happens next?
As we move forward.
Like I said, in the comments before, that in October that was passed, that they report to judicial, passed the higher dispatch coordinator. Move forward. Cooperation level is pretty well an all-time low, so I don't know. I'm looking for any advice.
I guess I could offer my thoughts on it. I don't know if that helps. I think it's rather childish the way some of it has come down, but it basically seems to me that there's a need for a better definition of the roles of the county board and the 911. I think that's where a lot of the misunderstandings come from. I think there needs to be recognition that all of the monies that are expended on behalf of 911 are taxpayer monies. I think that the county board represents the taxpayers. The county board should have a lot of input into that, but by the same token, 911 needs to be having the opportunity to manage and operate their department as they best see fit. It seems like there's been issues and problems where things maybe aren't being done quite correctly. There's been resistance to get them done correctly. I think that needs to be done. That probably exists on both sides. So it just, to me, it's a matter of something that needs to be straightened out. We're not doing the taxpayers of the county any good service by the way things are, and that needs to be corrected. I don't think there's any question, at least from what I know, the people on the county board are wanting to get things done correctly. I think there's a misunderstanding on the part of the 911 people that way. We're not out to get anybody. I think, from my standpoint anyway, we're out to try and get things done correctly. I can give you examples, but basically I think what I'm saying is the way I feel about it, what I would like to see happen. Maybe there needs to be a committee or something appointed to sit down with the 911 people and get all this worked out. I don't know. I don't think we can work it out by ourselves. I don't think they can work it out by themselves. There has to be some meeting together to get this worked out and have the roles of each clearly defined so that everybody's satisfied and happy.
I think you gotta have some accountability. We don't have that, I ain't gonna support it.
I'll agree with John on most of what he said. I guess I think that we do need to work together somehow through some method. I think typically things were blown up in the beginning. A lot of the blame on the ETSB board that I've heard is financial. And I wonder where the county board would be if the ETSB had pulled out of the ICOM earlier to save more money for the emergency situation. They've been blamed for not having enough money for an emergency. They don't have a built-in responsibility to fund dispatchers' salaries that they have funded until August or whatever it was. And I don't know where that stands, as far as the finality of that, but were they not to have funded salaries, how much money would they have for an emergency situation? I really think that given the situation we're in right now, the only reasonable answer to me is to go on with the negotiations with the 911 board, the ETSB board, and let things run the way they're running at the current time until an agreement is agreed upon, and let it work as it has pretty well in the past.
I disagree with a lot of that. This isn't about making anybody in here feel good or their job easier. This is about a service the taxpayer pays for that we are to provide. It rolls up under a statute and it needs to be accountable and transparent. Simple.
There are statutes, there is opinions that supersede opinions. There's a lot of things. you want to touch on the one opinion, the latest opinion that you got, Jim?
Well, I have two opinions from the Attorney General's office that explicitly allow ETSB to run the dispatch operations. And the only caveat of that is that landline money and cell phone money cannot be used to pay those salaries. Those salaries of dispatchers have to be paid from other sources, which would be if the county board contributes, which they should, City of Waseca, other municipalities, the hospital, and so forth. Those, it's kind of similar to what we had with ICOM, where you had that agreement where you had three entities paying into ICOM for the dispatchers, and that got expanded a few years ago to include other municipalities and taxing districts. So that would continue under ETSB's jurisdiction, which is what they're doing. They send out contracts to get money to fund dispatchers. So that's where it stands right now. From a legal perspective, there's nothing wrong with that.
I don't know what the second opinion for sure was. The one that just reminded about was 98009.
Yes.
And I can get you copies, or you can look it up. Try to read through these things. I use the word clear and unambiguous. Well, if there's anything less clear than some of these opinions, I don't know what it is. You can read them. I don't intend on reading this thing to you people. You can look it up. Just the one sentence. Jim had read the first paragraph to me yesterday, and I had it in this binder. It says, for the reasons, well, it's just, I have your letter here wherein you inquire whether county emergency telephone system funds may properly be expended for the costs associated with employing dispatchers for the emergency telephone system. For the reasons hereinafter stated, it is my opinion that payment of the cost of compensation and associated employee benefits of dispatchers who are employed to operate the communications equipment included in the emergency telephone system is a proper use of the emergency telephone system funds. I don't disagree that it's a use of emergency telephone system funds. Still, I'm not 100% sure where it says ETSB can take over the dispatchers, but we got to figure out what we're going to do here. I mean, there's opinions. You can read the whole law. We got to figure out what we're going to do and proceed. Now we've had Russell and Adam. You got anything you want to add to the mix?
I think there's a nice compromise laying out here, even though I see we're a long ways from it. What Don mentioned, even what Troy mentioned, it's very important because it needs to stay open like any government money that flows. And unfortunately, there's going to be changes, and I can see where there's a lot of folks that don't want to change how you do things after you do it for 20 years and you're set in it. Even though I know damn well that staff right there is the best one to get the job done. So where are you going to find a happy medium?
Well, and I think one thing we need to remember, however, is it is not the only way to get transparency and accountability by putting it under county board. There are other trustworthy people in this world than the Iroquois County Board members.
Don't take me out of context. I said it needs to roll up to the statutes that represent.
Well, if that's the case, then every county board would run dispatch, and they clearly don't. It's really more the exception than the rule. There are scores of agreements out there between county boards and ETSB where ETSB runs dispatch. If that was illegal, that would have been challenged long ago. And Kankakee County has an agreement from 2002.
Right. Well, I guess I'm a little unclear because if we run into a problem we cannot solve, there's got to be something that bumps against.
Such as?
I don't No, you're the legal.
Yeah, and I'm counseling that it's okay. I mean, I represent ETSB too. And I've counseled ETSB that it's certainly okay for them to take over the dispatch operations. So nobody's proven me wrong because it's so clear that they can do this. And in fact, they've acted to do just that. And I know there's some people who don't like that. Okay, we can have that discussion. And I think Dale and John make very good points that this needs to be talked about and negotiated. County board should have a say as to how this whole operation runs. I mean, this is a county agency. It's not a county board agency. It's a county agency.
Well, let me clarify my beliefs. I don't want this thing under the county board. It should be under a managing entity. But it still rolls up to the county board. It's the county board's ultimate responsibility that this thing succeeds for the taxpayer, correct?
No.
What if the department goes totally south? What happens then? Where does it go to?
Well, I guarantee you, the city of Watseka has a very definite interest in the success of this operation of dispatch and ETSB because they use their services every day. In fact, they're about half the services that are. So they have a very big interest. The hospital has a big interest. Fire departments all over the county, police agencies all over the county have an interest in this success. So they all have a financial interest, and not just the county board. So the financial responsibility rests with all of these agencies, not just the county board. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on making sure this process works and works successfully. You also have management in place. If things start to go south, they're going to let you know. I mean, if you want the coordinator to report to judicial or a county agency and give you an idea of what's going on, have her do it, or have him do it. You know, there's your transparency, and there's your fail-safe operation to let people know what's going on.
In my other, I've said this in other committees, when we get to a point we can't decide how something should be run, this is when we should be polling some of the other counties that are similar to us, that are successful, and pick them apart and see what they're doing.
In the other counties, I don't know if Jim or Nida, I know Nida, she knows a lot about Kankakee County, how it's ran. When it was instituted or when it was developed the way it is currently now, I don't know if that was the inception of the whole thing or if it started that way, didn't start that way. How it is now, was it an intergovernmental agreement? Was it ordinance passed by the board that gave them?
How KTK is operating now is through an intergovernmental agreement, which isn't my preferred way of labeling or titling that agreement. I wouldn't do it by an intergovernmental agreement because I don't think ETSB, because they're not a taxing body, they don't have a right to enter into intergovernmental agreements. But they do have a right to enter into agreements. So whether you call it an intergovernmental agreement, which is a specific part of the law, not applicable here in my opinion, but they certainly have the right to enter into agreements with municipalities and other interested entities, such as the hospital. So that's not inappropriate to have these agreements out there. So whether you call it an intergovernmental agreement or you call it, the 2015 Agreement of the Year, whatever title you want to give it, that's what governs your contractual relationships between these entities.
Well, I don't know if I could talk now. I don't know if you let me. I really believe that we can sit down and work this out. Like John is talking, especially I guess next month when there's only going to be 6 members, on our board. I don't see any reason why you guys can't come to the December meeting. I know, Connie, you talked about having a meeting with the city of Watseka and also ETSB and also the county board. You and some other representative come and talk to us. I don't have any problem whatsoever with that. The time is December 1st is Monday, and we're getting very short on time here, and I feel the ETSB is an easy changeover for us. I mean, nobody's even going to notice the difference. Everybody's in place, and it's just going to blend in at 12:01 on Sunday night, Monday morning, whatever you want to call it. It's just going to blend in. It's going to take over. I think that you should give us a chance and work with us. And we are here for the first responders. We all have everyone's life in Iroquois County in our hands. And when I train dispatchers, that's what I tell them. and I think it needs to continue as it is. And any questions you've got, you guys want to come in, you want to go through what we do, what our procedures are, what the dispatchers use for EMD, what we use for call taking, anything like that, I'm willing to walk through in an in-depth to show you exactly what we do and what this all entails, because I truly don't believe a lot of people know what it takes to sit behind that console, what it takes to be able to do that. It's tough to find a person to do that job, and I think it can give us a chance. We're not doing anything illegal. What we're doing is already throughout the state of Illinois. I've checked several places, and this is the way that's being done. Give us a chance. And let's work together and quit the negativity and the slamming and all that kind of stuff. I agree with that 100%. Some of you I've known for a very, very long time, you know, and we need to work together. And at one time we could. And unfortunately something came between us and has caused this. And I think it's time that we get back to what we're truly here for. And it's for the citizens of Iroquois County. And dispatch side, we're here to help people. We're there when they need us.
What we can't do is have this thing 12:01 on Monday morning stop anything for 1 minute. That's not going to happen. It's extremely clear. I don't have the right answer to how everybody wants to make it happen, but that's what we can't let happen. There's people walking out, or it's just, it opens up a lot of bad things.
Communication is the problem with this whole thing. Is what's going on. You know, the dispatcher's scared. Nobody's talking to them except, you know, for me and our board. And they hear all these stories on the street. And communication goes a very, very long way, and unfortunately it hasn't went very well in this incident right here.
Just I go back to what I said. I think, you know, if we got to do something to keep it going temporarily, but I still think we need to have some committee or group, whatever you want to call it, individuals to sit down and get the thing worked out as to what the roles are going to be of everybody, and what the responsibilities are going to be, so everybody understands. It's in black and white. There can't be any disagreements or whatever. And I'm sorry you misunderstood me, Troy, when I said that about making people happy. I'm talking about getting the thing worked out to everyone's satisfaction.
I think it's easy to remember that, or forget that this has been ongoing for a year and a half. What has changed?
So it's time for it to stop. And I think, you know, individuals like Nava, State's Attorney, maybe Kyle, one or two other people can sit down and get this clearly worked out. Shouldn't take that long.
And the city of Watsika needs to be involved in it too, because they are a major player in this.
I said one or two others. I'm not trying to identify.
No, I'm just saying that we can't forget them.
To me, that's the only way this is going to succeed, is if all the parties involved can sit down and come to an agreement. Put them in a room, close the doors, put on your boxing gloves, whatever you're going to do. But
A year and a half ago, I said, some bears and a pizza. Didn't happen. So, I don't, it's up to the board. It's not my decision. I'm just, until the first, I'm the guy who's supposed to say if something bad can happen.
well, I said that we got to come up with some way to keep things going temporarily. That's what we need to do. But I think we need to get this thing resolved. It's not going to happen. With the holidays coming up anyway, you're not going to get it worked out today.
Jim, the ETSB voted to take this over.
Yes.
What? For how long? Was there a limit put on it, a time frame?
No.
How does?
They didn't. I mean, there was no time frame stated in the motion, but there's also the known quantity that, you know, there needs to be an engagement with the county board in a long-term solution in this process, because financially and otherwise we need ETSB and dispatch is going to need county board help. So you have a voice in this, and that needs to happen. So there is no defined time when this is going to end, but I think there is that aura out there that the county board needs to be a part of this.
Supposedly this, the biggest situation, biggest problem that we're facing, as we've been told, is a deadline 2 years from now if things work out the way they've been temporarily planned or theoretically planned. That things need to be put on, as Jim said, a long-term solution. Why not start that now? Why not let ETSB take the responsibility as of the 1st? They're in place. I don't think we are at this point. Maybe we could be by the end of this meeting. I don't know, whatever you guys think. But they are in place. Do that. Start that negotiation and determining meetings, determining factors, and come up with a long-term solution now instead of 2 years from now. Make those decisions that have to be made at this point, but not generally change things at the current time.
We don't need to wait 2 years. We've done the waiting game. That didn't pan out real well. As we sit here, and I heard yesterday, I heard this morning that after January 1st, they're going to be down to 4 previous members and 2 new ones, and then they're going to have, it's going to change in another year. It effectively will be under the county board's oversight. I mean, whether whoever's on the committee or not, there's going to be some sort of control. So the board, depending on how it's made up, what are we going to do, folks? We've been here kicking around longer. Going to have a
Well, I think we definitely need to do an extension this point. You know, the bottom line is I can't see where there's staffing nervous over there that is your daily workers, because there's nothing's going to change. They're going to be there. There's always going to be dispatchers. I don't see any changing. You're not going to just go find a whole bunch of new dispatchers and move them in overnight. That's not going to happen. So where the scare's coming from there, but at the same time, again, going forward here, it looks like everybody's starting to understand the problems, and I think that things could get worked out, because it's quite obvious by listening to Ida, John, there's compromise where things will come together.
I firmly believe that. Now we got to decide how. What we gonna? Do you want to extend what's going on now? I don't even know if that's feasible solution. I don't, you know what I mean? How it's set now, sending it. They voted to take it over. Trying to figure all this out. How do we go about if we're going to compromise and try to get this to go?
Well, accept their movement. Yeah, you would have to accept their movement, and if we want to put a term on it.
Can we put a term on it? Can we put a time frame on it?
I don't know through what authority.
I don't.
Checkbook?
Well, that's why you need to be involved. Ultimately, is your checkbook.
Anything else?
There's a lot of blind trust in that.
Kyle, can we talk? Russell, that's the first time I've heard the word compromise from this board for a long time, and I think that's very important, and I think that's something we've been lacking, and I'm glad you brought that up. But I've been going to those 911 meetings now for the past 6 to 8 months, so I could get a feel as to what goes on there. And I think the members of that board generally care They're extremely knowledgeable. If you would take the time to go to those meetings, you would see how passionate and how knowledgeable that group is, and they really do want to succeed, and they want to do what's best for the county. And I say, let's give them a chance and let ETSB take it over. Now we're involved. We can keep our eye on them, and I think it would be a great compromise. We can always come back to the table again if we don't like what we see. But I think we would be pleasantly surprised. I think that they would do a good job because they generally care. And I think that also, you know, being from a small community, those are assets that we have that people from a larger community do not have. And a lot of us know the people that work there. I know when my mom had a car accident a few years ago, it was very, very comforting to me to know that when she called 911, the person on the other end had NIDA call me at home right away. I made it to the hospital before the ambulance. You don't get that in a big city. And I think we need to give them a chance and let them try.
We're not even sure we should go back if it didn't work out.
Right. Goes back to giving them a chance. I don't even know if we get to give them a chance. I think they took the chance. Took that. We didn't have a say so on that part of it. We did. 4 board members voted no. No. That was say so.
But Kyle, the reason that we did that is because there was no movement for anybody to truly take it over and get contracts out and, you know, work with the entities that were involved in it. And I know this got thrown in your lap.
Well,
but,
yeah.
you know, I understand that part. It's thrown in all of your laps. I understand that part. But we as emergency service people, somebody had to do it. You know, our first responders are wondering, the dispatchers are wondering, everybody's wondering, you know, who's going to be in charge of this on December 1st? Contracts were ending. You know, the contracts that the ICOM board did. So we stepped up to the plate because we waited until after the county board meeting and there didn't seem to be any movement that we can see. So we've got the equipment, we have the personnel, we've got the coordinator, and it seemed to be the right fit for us to step up to the plate and take over and get these contracts out as fast as we can to get them signed and get them back. We weren't trying to pull anything on anybody. It's just a matter of it had to be done, and the time was running out. So let's stop digging in our heels and work with them and do what's best for the citizens of Iroquois County.
Where is the situation of hiring a coordinator?
Standstill.
I'm sorry?
At a standstill. Not, I said earlier, it's not off the table. It is.
Are there applications?
Yes, 3. We have to do something here. Like I said, in October, this board voted to send it to this dispatch coordinator or dispatch telecommunications to go to do this. Voted to hire dispatch coordinator. Still happen? We can go. We can go try to compromise with what they went with. We gotta figure something out. Stop the huge black eye that keeps swelling on our face in the county board.
Hopefully.
Huh?
Hopefully.
Yeah, well, that's the only, you gotta take a step in the right direction, I guess.
I suggested something, nobody seems to want to proceed that way, so I don't know what to say.
Your suggestion being to set up a
Do something to temporarily keep the dispatchers going, and in the meantime, you know, put a time limit on it, but in the meantime, set up a committee or a group to get this thing worked out, to get everybody's roles defined. I don't see where that's something like that, and bring it back to the board, bring it back to everybody that's involved to approve it. I mean, if you have a plan, you at least have something to work with, and people aren't going to go for that. I mean, I don't know. hopefully the people that you put in there are going to be able to work the thing out to everyone's satisfaction. It's not that big of a deal.
I don't disagree with that. I would agree with that, with the initial situation that the PTSB takes the responsibility, at least at this point in time, and if you want to define that with a date if that's possible, or a dollar amount if that's possible, or whatever, but at least it clarifies what's going to happen Monday morning. I'm comfortable that would stay the way it is and embark on the cooperative search for cooperation, or working together to find the final answer, or the long-term answer, I should say.
Anybody at this table feel they do not want to cooperate at this time? I had no hands pop up.
For some reason, I read it, but I don't seem to have it with me.
Need the minutes?
Yeah, well, do you have the copy of
I
the?
do not have, no. I got a lot of copies of a lot of things, but I do not have the copy of them.
I read them, but
Are you talking about the minutes from just the last meeting?
Yeah,
They're not
this
even
week.
done yet, so you didn't read
earlier
them.
this week,
You didn't read them because they're not done yet. I know that table for working on it.
yet to be in the ICON, the joint meeting.
That was in
What is it?
June? June?
No, just in the last week.
We haven't had any joint meetings, have we there?
Where you, where you, where 911 agrees to take over your action.
That was
Last
Tuesday,
Tuesday, last
that's
Tuesday.
like Tuesday, that's just PTSD. And
You
you
have a
haven't
copy?
read minutes because they're not done yet. Dane's still working on them as of yesterday.
So I must be taking memory from what I read in the newspaper then.
Yeah, I don't know.
So if we don't have the minutes from that meeting, we really can't tell for sure where they're going in.
Where are you going on this?
Oh. See what I mean?
Jim, do you remember what the, are you asking for the motion? You want the motion?
Well,
Is that
I
what you
want to see the
want?
language that was in the minutes, so.
Russell, I have Wednesday's newspaper about that meeting.
Well,
If that'll help you.
it's not the minutes.
I mean, we made a motion to do contracts and take over the responsibilities of, as ICOM does today. I know that was it.
Language, I have that.
Anybody got the agenda?
the agenda.
It's on the motion was on the agenda. And that's where it was read from the day, so, if that's what you're asking.
On their agenda, under new business, item A, discussion and motion to assume responsibility of dispatch personnel, finance, and other duties as required or otherwise performed by ICOM, effective December 1, 2014. That's what you need to see here.
Does. You're right. That was the agenda. I thought it was in the minutes, but I guess it's not fair.
All right, folks. Anybody want to make a motion? Vote it out. Move on.
amend in the motion in order to make it work the way this committee wants it to work.
Well, going by what I read in the newspaper, it appears that things are heading the right direction. And so basically, with the information I got from there, I would say that I'd like to see an extension of that proposal to be continued until we can look at it a little bit further, like 90 days. Because I got the feelings on the right track.
But are you sure you can get out of this in 90 days?
Well, again, I don't know what their minutes say, so I can't just concur with whatever they got, but I haven't seen them.
All right. I don't know if this is relevant. Is ETSB, right now, it is prepared to do the finances, all that?
We sent out contracts amount, the match the amounts for the budget. You know, you've got a contract in front of you. You obviously in the city are major players. Our contracts match the budget, and we feel that the budget amount is correct as far as for us to survive over the next 2 years. As you had mentioned, the ICOM board is meeting at 1:30 this afternoon in this room, and at that time they are going to, I believe, they're going to make a motion, it's on the agenda anyway, to transfer the leftover ICOM money into ETSB dispatch fund in turn to subsidize, just like you guys were planning on doing, just to simply take it off and go. I feel that everything is in place. We've got dispatchers, we've got equipment, we've got a coordinator, we've got the finances, we got the contracts out, we received contracts back. I feel that we are set to do what we need to do at 12:01 on Monday morning.
What capacity will the county need to be involved, other than write a check?
You have a representative on the ETSB board, and so does the city at this time. I mean,
Paperwork-wise, payroll-wise, all that stuff.
we took back when ICOM was formed in 2002, that was something that the county provided to us. If there needs to be a fee to ICOM at this time, if you feel you need to charge us for that service, then I guess that's something that we need to work out. ICOM is always reimbursed the county for every expense that has taken place, where it be their portion, the employer portion of IMRF, the employer portion of health insurance, all of the payrolls have been all reimbursed. Workman's comp has been reimbursed. If there's anything that hasn't been reimbursed by ICOM, I am not aware of it. So, and the ETSB has ran the same way. For Sandy and I, benefits and salaries is all been reimbursed to the county. You've more or less been our, I'm going to call it the accountants or payroll division or whatever the case you want to call within that. And
That's what I'm
if
going
that
with.
can't be ran that way, then that's, I guess, something we need to sit down and talk out or outsource or whatever the case may be.
This
And that could be something in this,
discuss.
what John's talking about, that's something that, you know, it could be discussed with that so-called committee or whatever the case may be. It's always been that way, that's not an answer, but that's the way it is.
So as I understand, their motion in referring to, as ICOM did it, would not change the county's responsibility in those directions or those issues from what they have been in the past. Would I be right on that?
If I were looking at it, there again, it goes back to the communication thing, may have been. Yes, I think you're right by reading it, but then we need to know that. And I don't know that. So,
I guess, Kyle, that's one area we failed to double check on.
now that's why we're here. What do we want to do?
I would be interested in making a motion, but I don't want to make a motion that's going to change something. Or anybody can make it, I don't care. legally limited with.
We got it. We can't, I don't think we asked Jim to make our motion for us. We figure, get some parameters of what we're looking at, and then maybe look at them and see if that's within our legal purview or whatever, but Jim can't make our motion for us.
Mr. Chairman, can there be some outside comment?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm not so sure the control that the county board has on this is the chairman appoints the 911 board members. I'm not so sure you have to have something today in a motion that allows ETSB to do what they voted to do or to go against what ETSB did. I think the important thing is to be willing to sit down with ETSB after December 1 and come to some type of agreement that everyone is comfortable in. And there's all kinds of agreements out there. For instance, as an example, Metcad, which is in Champaign, those dispatchers are City of Champaign employees, yet they dispatch countywide. All the other entities that use that service go pay for a dispatching fee. But to further it, the sheriff down there pays a flat fee, and then the sheriff contracts with all the local municipalities that use the sheriff's main frequency, so he gets reimbursed from them. So you can make this as complicated or as simple of a process as you choose to do. But I don't think getting to the point where it's going to be a contest of who has the authority to step in and take over is just going to convolute the mess. It's going to, I've heard stuff that one side's going to sue the other if they do this and that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it's out there. I know the dispatchers are nervous about who their employer is going to be because they're uncertain. You know, to throw another wrench in the works here, and with as many witnesses are here in the media, as being sheriff, I am not saying that I will take over dispatch at all. But as a scenario, if that were to have happened, where would this committee be and where would this board be? Because at that point, those dispatchers would be employees of the sheriff. That budget would be, once approved, the sheriff's budget, and depended on solely on how the sheriff spends that money. And I've heard transparency thrown around, and I've heard accountability thrown around, and all those things, which is fine. Let's move forward. Let's not accuse who of doing what prior to this on how money was spent. I will tell you this much. Prior to the ICOM agreement, the county board was spending about $250,000 a year on dispatch, and that was 12 years ago, probably, thereabouts. Since that time, it got cut in half. So, you know, when you take the last 12 years, with ETSB picking up that portion, you're talking easily over $1 million that the county saw as a savings because of this agreement. So I would think that that's being responsible to the taxpayer. I would think that that's got the taxpayer first and foremost. Hiring a supervisor to run dispatch if the county deems they're going to take it over is another cost to the taxpayer. So my recommendation would be there are certain things statutorily that ETSB can do. There's certain things they can't do. If they do something they can't do, then let's talk about that. But to start this process off by having the thumb on top of somebody and pushing down on them saying it's going to be our way or the highway, if the county takes it over, you're going to be dependent on the checkbooks of the city of Watsika and on the fire districts and on the other municipalities to make this work, because you can't make it work by yourself. So let this thing move forward. And this is my opinion. Let this thing move forward. Sit down and talk with the parties involved and come to a conclusion. seems pretty simple like that to me. I would be more than welcome to join. I won't drink any beer, but I'll eat pizza if Kevin's buying, so.
What happens if we just simply do nothing at this point?
Check me if I'm wrong. ETSB takes over at 12:01.
So if we do nothing, including not hiring, including not taking over, but just leave it there, we can still get involved in the center if the board would want to. The important thing is, as John suggested, to get started on the long-term solutions.
There does not need to be a motion. Again, my intent for a motion was we're looking to do some sort of cooperation with an olive branch out there. And that could help. You don't want to do anything?
Do they need to do a motion, or do they need to send this contract to Tacoma?
I'm not against a motion to allow what's in line or lined up to happen. My only suggestion is to placate certain opinions on the board with leaving it hanging, but yet let things go on as they are currently in line.
Who do we want to be the players if we do about this? Who gets county board, city of Waseca? Mr. Vine, he's got a lot of free time.
The great thing about it is you could get, there's a fire mutual aid association, you could get a member from that involved to represent the fire department. You could get someone from the ambulance service involved. You can make it as inclusive or exclusive as you want it.
You get too many people, you diminish you getting something done.
There needs to be no committee set up for that. It's just we're going to sit down and make it work.
Yeah, we just don't want to violate the Open Meetings Act.
Yeah, not have too many of the one.
But, right.
At the discretion of the new chairman. Responsibility, I should say.
Go ahead and we'll leave it sit there. Is that where we're going? Is that the route we're going to take for today?
Jim, under the Open Meetings Act, isn't there minutes that's supposed to be available at a given time after this meeting?
So we're back to ETSB not having the minutes done yet? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, because I'm going by hearsay on everything.
Okay, you know what, why don't you talk to Sandy and look at her notes? She took copious notes. You can, if you're not satisfied that the minutes aren't done yet, then ask Sandy for a copy of her notes.
If we're asked to make a decision based off what somebody did a week ago, why don't we have it in black and white? You don't make.
I don't know. I'm not in control of that, Russell. But you've
Right.
had access. You've had access to Miss Drake and to ask of her notes, or Miss Dubel to ask if those notes are available.
I thought
if the minutes aren't ready.
Apparently I did not, and I just had what I got from the local paper on for the agenda.
I would assume minutes have to be posted to be official, correct?
Be passed.
But that's accountability.
The meeting was recorded, Russell, go get the recording. Kyle was there.
I was there. It was clearly in the paper that I made no comment. So that was an accurate article. So, yeah, it was the way it was read. I mean, there's a lot of discussion, a lot of.
So you had a verbatim.
A lot of stuff. But yeah, it was the discussion motion was assume responsibility, just like it read on the agenda.
They read it off, they had that.
Yeah, when it came down to time when they were going to vote, Don was there.
There were 9 board members there.
And you've got, Dan was there, he's on our board obviously now. John's on our board, Charlie's sitting over here. Those two were here. I mean, we've got quite a few board members that were here.
Okay. So we want to set up something after December 1st. Somebody needs to set up offer up a meeting time and place, and those invited to discuss. Is that the avenue we're going to take without a motion? Somebody want to do?
I think we should have a motion to do that, shouldn't we?
That part probably should.
Two guys saying it should probably do that. Everybody's head shake up now. What do you want? How do you want to word it? We're gonna get something accomplished. One way or the other. What do you think?
You want to put a size on it? You were concerned about too many people.
Well,
I'm concerned about not enough representation.
Well, that's where you,
Figure out size. Why don't we figure out who? We've got enough people. I'm not sure if it's in here, but who should be on it? What entities are going to be covered in it? County board, city, what city government? Put up top, state attorney.
sure, I do Google too.
City, sheriff.
We have 9 of it. Do you want, did you leave a spot for one ETSB board member?
Yeah, I would assume they look to the chairman of the committee.
Roger.
I don't-
You could start small, and if you need to enlarge it, you could always enlarge it at another meeting.
At this point, put a number on it. I don't know if we'll put a number on it. Make sure we got all the entities
Right.
covered, so nobody first step in something and then we screw it up. It'd not be a good idea. So we need to make sure. Is there somebody we're missing? Derek said something about Mavis.
There's somebody from the fire community should be involved.
I mean, we do have 20 contracts out there with the fire department. I mean, if you're truly talking about that, you know, I would look at the mayor president. So.
I thought you were going to say we need all 20 of them.
No. I think one person, they have a meeting, one person can report for them.
And who's the contact for that?
Jeff Glenn.
Check.
And then you have 2 hospitals involved in our contracts too.
Yeah.
You know, my first thing would be Chris Curry and Kevin Ack. And if they want to delegate somebody else, obviously they can.
Are we missing anybody?
How many you got there?
The police,
State Attorney, County Board, City Sheriff, ETSB, Mavis, and the 2 hospitals.
I mean, we're talking about police, but I think you have the sheriff on there, and then also our ETSB board chairman is obviously police chief. So I figure that you have the police chief covered, in my eyes. And they don't meet anyway, so.
There's a lot of people there.
So you've got 8 names on
8,
it.
well, they're not names, but 8. Yeah, 8 entities.
Seems funny that we would need 8 people on that negotiating committee when 6 is good enough for the ETSB board.
I was thinking the same thing, Dale.
Well,
Okay, we go all the way back to square one now.
It's like we're adding another layer.
No, we aren't.
We're sure as hell are.
We're negotiating now.
we need to, the purpose of this is to establish everybody's role in the whole Surface 911 program. So any of those people on there really should only be speaking to their part in it.
Expertise.
I mean, is that correct? The hospital's concerned about how it affects them. They shouldn't be concerned about the county board or whatever. So, you know, from that standpoint, I don't know, maybe you need to have that many people on there if they understand what each one's purpose on the committee is.
Did we forget anybody? anybody else feel like they order need to be involved?
Like Jim said,
Somebody has to carry the dead bodies out.
it could be addressed by that committee later, I would think.
But you know, Mr. Chairman, I do believe that if ETSB does take this over and they do get in a financial situation, they're going to come back to the county board or they're going to come back to the city because they're going to need help. And the city and the county is going to need help in dispatching. So, you know, putting a time limit on, giving them a year to work things out is, to me, not correct. That's just my opinion.
Put no time limit on it, get this committee working on it, solve the problem?
Yeah, because, I mean, I will admit, I go down there, those dispatchers are not happy. And they're confined in that small room and it's going to get worse. So, I mean, you know, I've heard out there that they need to be accountable for the money that has been spent, but I don't know what I've never heard anybody say that they spent money on something that they didn't need.
Gentlemen to my right. Need a, still want a motion? Those improvements?
I moved it after. You want it after December 1, or you want to do it now?
If we're gonna vote on it, I think we do it now, we'll put it on the next board.
Shouldn't make any difference, I don't think.
The committee won't get approved until the board.
Full board.
Yeah, it is the next one.
Yeah, I mean, but it's, these, it's sitting board now. By the time it gets approved, it'll be the newspaper.
Move we establish a committee determined by that list, expandable by that group if necessary. In order to negotiate a long-term situation for 911.
Word committee, is that accurate?
Sure. That's fine.
Does that work?
In order to negotiate long-term,
Solution? Good.
What do you mean by expandable in the public committee?
Just meaning if they think there should be somebody else on that committee, that they can make that decision. They can invite somebody else.
Or we, or I ask for a second that, want to read it back real quick, Amanda? Please.
Establish a committee determined by, and I'll list this list, expandable by the group mentioned, if necessary, in order to negotiate long-term solution with 911,
How about with dispatch?
with dispatch.
Dispatch.
Do you want the personal names, or do you want the entities?
How about just the entities right now?
Okay.
Okay, if that seems to be,
That sounds fine.
then motion on the floor. Second.
I'll second.
Second. Any other discussion?
You want to hear that motion?
I guess.
It's up to you.
Whatever.
Establish a committee determined by, did you hear the entities listed? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Expandable by the group listed, if necessary, in order to negotiate a long-term solution with dispatch. Okay.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion from the committee?
Meaning that one of the main purposes is to identify the roles of each participant in the 911. Okay, is that what we're saying? Sounds good to me. So I think that's the crux of the problem. People don't know what their role is.
We'll give Troy in just a second. Mr. Van, so asking everybody, is that fine? Does that sound reasonable? Ida?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a start to work out for the future for dispatch. You know, this is probably something Kevin was talking about the time he wanted to buy bigger pizza back in, what'd you say, 13, 14 months ago, Kevin? You know, since July or August of last year, it's a route that we need to go, and I think, man, because that would save us a lot of headaches and time and
They wouldn't have nothing to
energy.
write about in the papers.
I know. It would save some print, man.
Job security.
So it's a start, and it's hopefully it's a good start, and we can all work together. We've been through a lot. Communication is a long, very good thing. Right? Okay.
So good at it.
It's all different kinds.
There you go. There you go.
There.
There you go. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to read the motion off one more time for you. Read it for me. Yes, please.
Did you hear the listed entities?
The State Attorney, County Board, City of Waseca, Sheriff's Department, ETSB, Mavis, and both hospitals.
The motion is to establish a committee determined by the listed entities, expandable by the group of entities, if necessary, in order to negotiate a long-term solution with dispatch. Dale made the motion and Adam seconded the motion.
So what's the horizon on that?
There is
Okay, we're going to do a roll call vote, please.
Hanson. Bill.
Yeah.
Zumwalt.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Carlini.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes. Motion carries. All right, FSA update. Touched on it earlier. FIPHD, First Trust Bank Agreement. Get the phone taken care of. Let us know. And do the highlights on that, John, if you would.
Just to give you a little bit of background, last summer, on June 27th, we had a special county board meeting at which time we approved an interagency agreement between Ford County and Iroquois County. And this basically was set up to start the process of the going forward after the dissolution to take care of obligations and so forth. It basically gave Ford County Public Health Department the authority to establish an escrow agent, which was done on the 23rd of June. An agency agreement was made with the First Trust Bank. Part of that agreement was to pay them $1,000 a month for the first month and $750 a month thereafter, which we've been paid up until now. The initial agreement between Ford County and Iroquois County said that this would terminate on December 31st of this year unless it was decided or found necessary to extend it beyond that point. And one of the things that the Ford Iroquois Public Health Department did was to establish that the president of the Ford County Board of Health and the president of the Iroquois County Board of Health would have to sign off on any disbursements that were made by the First Trust Bank. So for the past, since that time, Mr. Short and myself Mr. Short's the president of Ford County Board of Health. Since that time, he and I have been spending quite a bit of time, especially recently, discharging those duties. And we're down to the point now where there's really not a whole lot left, although you never know what's going to pop up. I talked on November 18th, was at the First Trust Bank and met with Kerry Bell, who's the president there, and told them our interest and desire to terminate the agreement on December 31st. The agreement that we have in place says that we're required to give them 60-day notification before termination. Mr. Bell agreed to waive that requirement. So we're in a position where we can terminate the agreement on December 31st, but going forward, we're still going to have some obligations. So the plan would be on December 31st to take the funds that are in the trust account at the First Trust Bank and transfer them into what is called a community checking account. And thereby, Mr. Short and myself, or whoever is president of the two boards of health at any given time, would be required to sign the checks that would be required to pay any remaining obligations. And so this is a plan that's been, I talked to Jim Devine about it. He thinks it's a good thing. People in Ford County, the state's attorney there and the chairman of the board both think it's a good idea to do it this way and not to continue having to pay the $750 that we're paying and so forth. So we're bringing that here today for a motion to approve this procedure to do it the way I've just outlined, which means that as of December 31st, as I said, we would establish a checking account that Mr. Short and myself would be required to be signatory on all checks. We would also take over the post office box at the post office downtown where the mail is delivered. Mail will be picked up on a regular basis. Anything that comes in, bills, what money, there's still money owed to the department from the state. There still are bills outstanding. I hate to tell you this, but you just never know what's going to pop up. We got hit last night, about 6 o'clock last night. I got an email where this Illinois Department of Aging, now they say we own $27,000. And so we're going to have to dig into that and find out whether that is actually the case or not. We hope it isn't, but this is typical of what Mr. Short and I are faced with and so forth. So I think the procedure that I've just outlined is what we should adopt. So I would hope, I've got papers here if anybody's interested in it, in what, any of this, but I hope we get a motion today to approve going forward with this arrangement.
You're entertaining the idea? Are you entertaining the idea of a motion?
Yes, sir. I'm hoping to get one.
Well, I can see where we don't want to pay. You're paying a maintenance fee like that on a checking account that is really not so much action on. So if we can convert it to a different type of checking account where we have no maintenance fees, where you and Mr. Short.
Right, and it isn't a maintenance fee that we have on the bank. Debbie Gudeman, the trust officer at the bank, has been handling all this.
Yeah, that's probably
we're down to the point right now where there really isn't that much anymore. Hopefully.
They don't want
$27,000.
These First Trust people don't want to just redo the agreement and reduce the amount since there's that much traffic on it?
Well, they were approached and asked if they would do it for free. They said no, but they might reduce it to $500.
Community checking.
Which I think is still... The community checking won't cost us anything. That's a free service or deal that they offer government entities in the area.
Not for profit.
Right. So our only expense in that regard is going to be the cost of the post office box downtown. Because, I mean, everything that I'm doing is costing, even my travel expenses are zero. There's no way to claim any of that I'm aware of. So same thing for Mr. Short. So
I'd like to thank John for his involvement in this issue. in the past, and also for the offer to do it in the future. And I would be interested in voting on that type of a motion that somebody might want to make.
I'll make the motion that we let the first trust agreement expire and create a community checking, with any funds that are left, if there is any. Sounds like there might be more liabilities if there is funds.
There could be, in which case we'd have to come back to both county boards to,
Right.
Do that. But
The only thing is, by moving that account like that, that's the original agreement between the Fort County and Iroquois County?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I looked at the agreement that we had, which I have a copy of it here, and they pretty much gave that authority to the Fort Iroquois Public Health Department.
Because there was an open end where if there's additional...
And the Fort Iroquois Public Health Department, that board doesn't exist anymore. So.
And what's just briefly summarize the protocol to get monies out of there, or any monies to cover obligation? What all transpires?
Well, the way it works right now, any invoices to be paid are presented to myself and to Mr. Short. We both sign off on that, and then Debbie Gudeman then issues a check to pay them. So in essence, we're eliminating her. We'll still have the invoices available, and if we both agree that they're legitimate and need to be paid, which pretty much is the case.
So that doesn't need to run back to the health board/committee? That
No.
direction?
It hasn't so far, and it wouldn't the way we're talking about doing it. So, I mean, there is...
Correct? Is that
Yeah, there is no committee, I mean, there's no board, so I think, but by agreement, there was the delegation to John and Mr. Short to accomplish this task.
So it doesn't have to run through the health committee?
I don't think so, because this is a Fort Iroquois issue, not a Iroquois public health issue.
I'm just checking to make sure.
No, I think, there's obviously a measure of responsibility there. I want to make sure everybody's comfortable with it and so forth.
Because then, the only reason I asked is because Russell's question kind of triggered it with me, that if you run out of funds, then you're coming back to the health committee.
And I just created another account, you would record the contract where it had from a different...
Well, and the reason that besides the fact that some bills show up that we're not aware of or what have you, but money was dispersed voluntarily by Debbie Gudeman to both counties, and we told her to stop that because she was going too fast. And if she hadn't done that, we wouldn't be in. I mean, we wouldn't potentially have that particular problem.
And maybe we're looking into it too far.
If you ran out of funds, would it not revert back to the original agreement between the two counties for the dissolution?
I think so. That's where I would look.
I think one question that I had too, which I didn't have a chance to talk to you about the other day, but is there a point in time when we can maybe publish a disclaimer in the newspapers or something similar to what you do, like when someone passes away or whatever, that all claims have to be filed by a certain date, and after that date, nothing can be...
No, it's the statute of limitations issue. I mean, if they make a claim after the applicable statute of limitations is run, which is really what the governing statute would be, then you don't need to publish it.
When is the statute of limitations then?
I think I know on verbal contracts, it's 5 years. On written contracts, it's 10 years, as a general sense. So if we have, so I don't know what's out there. I don't know what is out there. Is it verbal? If it's just invoices where we owe money, it could be a 10-year statute of limitations.
Well, one thing like the example that I mentioned that came to light last night, that's something from the state, an agreement with the state where, they gave the money to the FIPHD up front for the grant. FIPHD was responsible to make an accounting of monies expended under that grant. And so those were submitted to the state, and now the state has come back and said, well, you're short, you didn't spend all the money we gave you, you have to give it back.
That would be a 10-year statute of limitation issue then.
So, I mean, we have that, who knows what, when and where stuff like that can come up. My intention is to dig into that a little deeper because of that, to find out
Right.
if we might have any other similar situations. But, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
we also have the other thing that you brought up about that lawsuit.
Right.
Nobody knows when that's gonna terminate or what the outcome will be at this point.
Right.
So, there are some things like that that could come to pass further down the road. I mean, I don't know that anybody can really put a defining date as to when this thing is
Right.
gonna end. It probably was a mistake to think that it was all gonna be over by December 31st, when this was set up last summer.
Right.
But
State of Illinois knows about statutes. They don't know anything about limitations.
especially if it's our money.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
I don't know if it was ever, there was a period at the end of the sentence, I'm not sure. Did he finish it?
You're allowing the first trust account to expire as
Oh, the agreement.
the agreement to expire.
It probably should be terminated.
Okay.
We're terminating the agreement, it's not really expired.
Okay.
The
You're
31st.
allowing it to terminate as of the 31st, or you're terminating it early?
No, it'll be on the 31st.
Okay. And then creating a new account.
Mr. Short and I'll go to the bank on that day and get all that taken care of.
Okay.
That's what.
And that's where you stop?
Yes.
That's where you stop? Are you
I don't
adding?
think we need
Well
to add
said,
anything.
Russell.
Do we need to add anything? That's it.
Say 2 health board presidents be signed.
Okay.
And they're allowed to make the payments afterwards. I mean,
You got the check with them.
but it's not part of the motion, is it? Or is it?
Without changing the signatures on the existing account. So just transferring the account, basically. Some people can be signing off on it.
Well, they're signing off on them now, but they're not signing the checks. You are signing the checks?
No, we're not, no.
Right.
Debbie Goodeman's signing the checks
Right.
now. We're
That's all.
approving, we will,
Whatever you say, Russell.
Terry Bell asked that I send him a letter, and I've got a copy, I've drafted the letter already. The letter also goes a step ahead of time, assuming that all this is going to be approved, but if you like to look at the letter.
Read it and enter it into the minutes of the motion.
No.
Yeah, the board's got to approve this, actually.
Right. Obviously, the letter wouldn't be presented to them until that time, and it's on the agenda for the Ford County Board as well, for them to approve.
You want to attach that to the motion?
Yeah, I suppose, because we need to otherwise make a separate motion just on this, so try this
I do have an email I got last night from Mr. Short saying that he had talked with the Ford County State's Attorney and also Rick Bowen, the outgoing county board chairman there, and they're both okay with that letter.
Our state's attorney read that letter?
No.
Our state's attorney like to read that letter?
I sure would. I said I don't trust John.
This banker talk.
What?
They gotta have their, everybody.
Yeah, but what if I had it?
Michael.
Forward check, forward.
If this thing goes for 10 years, we might not be around then, so the presidents of the Board of Health will be handling it. And that was what FIPHD established. I happened to be at the meeting and I did that, and I was the man.
Okay, 37, that's fine. Motion. Second. Dale, that is second by Dale Schultz. Any other discussion? Now, roll call vote, please.
Hanson,
Again? Yeah.
Bill,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yeah.
Sure,
Yes.
Schultz, Crumwitty,
No.
Anderson,
Yes. Correspondence. Correspondence. Digging out the correspondence for claims. Everybody look at their claims. Sheet. There is no correspondence. Claim sheet. Look at your claims. John Sure moves to pay the claims as submitted. Second.
is that for me?
And second. No other discussion on the claims. Roll call vote, please.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Sure,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Crumwitty,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes. John.
Johnson.
Is there any old business before this committee?
Old business, I think, how are we working out with the audio visual for the internet?
Working on good.
Smile.
How do you feel it's working out? Eric?
It's working out. I do have problems with the system myself. Just to point out some problems I've had. The light camera above the chairman's head is actually not hooked up to the system. The night before the last full board meeting, I had a lot of problems. And right before the meeting, I bought that little LED camera right there. The little black thing that's also above the chairman's head. That is what's connecting and that is what's working. So moving forward with this system, and to be clear, I had some other problems that I had to work around, and let's say thank God for free open source software, because that's what I'm using and that's what actually works. That being said, we probably could return one of those cameras, but that's not my decision, and I'll leave that to perhaps the chairman. So that's where we're at. The last full board meeting was posted on YouTube, and I'm decently satisfied. Hopefully, this meeting is recording, and we'll be able to have a better visual signal and then a higher bit rate. And also, I think audio will be improved because these are the microphone that's in front of you at the center of the table. And that, in my opinion, is probably the best microphone in this room. So it's good, and I hope to get it better.
I thought that there was a lot of difficulty in hearing on YouTube. In fact, I didn't,
I agree.
didn't listen very long at all because you just couldn't hear anything anyone was saying.
I agree.
Even from the chairman sitting in front of that.
Mm-hmm. There is a microphone at the front table, probably the cheapest of the purchases. I think it was under $10. And it did not perform well at all. I agree. Most of the audio that the chairman, most of the audio from the front of the room seemed to be picked up by these two hanging microphones, which I thought is better than expected. However, I would agree with that.
Because I sit under that microphone, and even when they took the roll call, I couldn't hardly hear myself. So
It takes time and tweaking throughout, in my experience, in the audio visual. Is important.
Work in progress.
It's a work in progress, and anybody have any questions? Happy to answer.
One question I have, initially in the discussion, we talked about the equipment being capable of a number of microphones. I understand there was a change in equipment, a change in equipment. I just wondered if that downsized the number of microphone input possibilities.
The way the system is hooked up right now, all microphones and all inputs, whether that be microphones or the camera, are run into that computer that is sitting on top of your mailboxes. And when you hook things up to the computer, you usually have to do it through USB nowadays. So there is a limit, and we're about at it. If you wanted to, Mr. Schur, you talked about how it would be nice to have a microphone at each table here for recording. Am I correct? It's just an idea that you had. In order to do something like that, you'd have to buy more equipment. You'd have to buy something that you could run all inputs to and then run that to the computer.
Okay, in our discussion at that time, I guess my question was, is there room for 25 inputs? And you said, no, you didn't think so. There would be less than that. And we kind of settled on a 12 input would probably be possible. Was that negated by change in equipment, or maybe just not correct? Or
I'd say it was probably not correct.
Okay.
I'd say that's probably my fault, and I didn't fully understand what I was getting into. And there's less than 12 inputs, to be clear. And yes.
The point is that, 5 years ago we looked into microphones, as John was inquiring about at each of the desks, and determined it to be not possible at that time financially. But it seems that when you add equipment, you hopefully would go in that direction anyway. So, but this is a lot simpler than what would be needed at that time also. So, a work in progress.
And point out that at the time I talked with Eric about that, he thought there was enough inputs that something like having a microphone at each desk would work, but now apparently that's not the case, so
Right now.
have to look at it a little differently, I guess. Not to say that we shouldn't still perhaps look into the cost of it and determine in the coming months if it's feasible to do something like that, but we can't do it with what we've got.
I just wondered if the change in equipment was the cause of that, that's all.
So we did, and I recall, Dale, when we talked about that, and I had in mind to put in a system with the mic at each desk was like $25,000. It was really expensive. But I just counted there are 9 desks, so if I followed this, would it work to have a microphone between the two, like 2 people? Per desk. Like one here.
Are you speaking of a hanging microphone?
Well, I don't know. You're the equipment man, I don't know.
Of sorts.
Would one of those cheap $10 mics to share back and forth?
Could, however, I would not
If you
suggest this
spoke
microphone
into it.
because or I don't think it's strong.
We'll get down to those.
This microphone in particular costs about $80 a piece to run that, and then you would need an adapter, which is somewhere just under $100, say $90. So
I
then
didn't
we're
think
at
that
100.
one worked very well. Like I said, I'm sitting right under it and you couldn't hear me.
And it could just be that we need to tweak it. Position-wise, with this microphone is actually key. There's a radius, a degree.
That's future discussion.
Yeah, we're gonna, hey, it was posted, so we're making baby steps, we're heading in the right direction. We'll keep tweaking it. We'll try to make what we have at this time, I believe we're the most transparent around. Most transparent we've been, period. So we're moving on to the other old business. If not, new business, executive session, quick executive session, would you still like to do that?
I would like to discuss the blunt loan.
Yeah, we'll do a quick recess, if you don't mind. make sure we got the audio visual done like we need to do. When they want to make a motion on recess, 5 minutes.
Recess, 5 minutes, motion.
Second. There you go. All in favor?
Aye.
5 minutes.
Yeah, right, Bob, what do you want? You're scaring me now.
You got a executive session statute that's in mind?
Lisa's going to give me
Before
Then don't read the number.
Don't read.
read the whole stuff.
I make a motion, we move into executive session 5 ILCS 120/2 C11 pending for threatened litigation. Or
Okay, the motion to go into executive session, is there a second? Second, not sure, all those in favor? Aye.
Gotta wait for them to turn it on.
Okay, go ahead.
So this one is...
Oh, sure.
Is it back on? Back in regular session. More new business coming forward the board or the committee. Okay, motion to adjourn. Don Sure makes motion. Dale seconds. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Carried. Meeting adjourned.
I gotta put my front wheel.
Okay.